As the electric vehicle trend took off, many Chinese companies jumped into the race, enjoying massive growth over the past decade. But now, they're facing serious roadblocks. Now these companies are battling for survival in an overcrowded domestic market. The major players are struggling to stay competitive, while smaller ones are on the brink of collapse. Let's take a look at 6 key reasons why all this is happening. Number 6. BYD has halved their profits this year. BYD, a company from China, is often called Tesla's main competitor. At the end of 2023, BYD reported that it sold more electric vehicles than Tesla, which is based in Austin, Texas. However, this situation changed quickly as soon as the new year began. Things didn't go well for BYD in the first quarter of the new year. In the last quarter of 2023, BYD had impressive sales numbers, managing to sell 526,000 electric vehicles. But the start of the new year brought different challenges for the company. In January, BYD's performance declined, and this was followed by a usually slow February because of the Chinese New Year celebrations. March didn't see much improvement either, so the first quarter ended with only a little over 300,000 sales. But that wasn't the only problem. Besides having slow sales, BYD was also hurt by a continuing price war, which meant their profit margins were much lower. Altogether, this caused a huge 47% drop in profit from the previous quarter. Many people thought this negative trend would stop in the second quarter. Even though we're now hearing about record high weekly sales, the truth is that sales kept going down in April. That month, BYD sold 134,500 electric vehicles, which was a 3.9% drop from March. The only good news is that BYD's plug-in hybrids, which the company also focuses on, are doing quite well. So the chairman and president, Wang Jianfu, informed investors that he expects to reach 3.5 million in total sales, which is 20% higher than last year's goal. However, with the current EV sales, it is uncertain if this goal will be achievable. Most experts predict that the overall demand for EVs will decrease this year because of ongoing economic challenges that Chinese citizens are currently facing, including worries about job prospects and income. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this video, do well to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to show your support. If you've done that, let's continue. Number 5. Li Auto is down. Like all other Chinese EV makers, Li Auto is struggling these days. Things took a turn for the worse at the start of this year, leading to a big drop in revenue in the first quarter. Year-on-year changes might be positive, but if you compare the first quarter of 2024 with the last quarter of 2023, there's a significant negative trend. Sales numbers are notably low, and the ongoing price war has also contributed to a significant revenue drop of nearly 40%. But sales figures aren't the only issue troubling this automaker right now. One of their latest projects, called Li Mega, might end up being quite unsuccessful. Despite the extensive use of advanced technology, impressive range, and overall luxury, it seems that the demand is much lower than expected. The company believed this new minivan would become the most popular EV over $775,000. However, it seems this projection was unrealistic, and the minivan is likely to become a big flop. North American investors now feel misled by these projections. Previously, the company claimed to have over 100,000 orders, but the actual sales number is unlikely to exceed 76,000 units. As a result, U.S. investors have filed a class action lawsuit accusing the company of making misleading statements about its operations and prospects. Number 4. Global expansion issues. The main reason Chinese EV makers are seeing sales declines and profit drops is that the domestic market is overcrowded. There are simply too many EV makers, and the market has reached its limits. Given this situation, it is clear that the only path to sustainability is through global expansion. This mainly refers to the West, where the EV market is just beginning to grow. Chinese EV makers originally planned to gain a strong position in Europe and North America by offering lower prices. Typically, Chinese companies try to compete by being more affordable than Western companies. However, this isn't happening. The main reason is the protection of local automakers and the industry in these regions. Governments are implementing various new tariffs aimed at reducing the price difference between Western and Chinese electric vehicles. These recent decisions suggest that developments are not going as China would prefer. For instance, Biden's administration recently announced a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, regardless of whether they are imported from Mexico or elsewhere. Additionally, there are new tariffs on batteries, raw materials, and other components related to the EV industry overall. These measures are designed to level the playing field, but may impact China's plans in this sector. The European Union is also moving in this direction, but it's more complex because of the strong presence of German automakers in China. Nevertheless, Chinese efforts to expand into Western markets aren't going as smoothly as hoped. Even large automakers like BYD, which was mentioned earlier, generate 95% of their sales domestically, which isn't sustainable in the long term. As a result, these companies are now focusing on expanding into other markets, such as the Middle East and Latin America. They're even considering opening new plants in these regions to support their growth. Number 3, hybrids are trending now. To ensure the survival of most major players, the growth of electric cars in China has slowed down, similar to trends worldwide. This is influenced by several factors, including less than ideal economic conditions within China. Many consumers are now opting for hybrids instead, which are cheaper and alleviate common EV worries, such as range limitations. According to recent reports, plug-in hybrids are becoming increasingly popular in China, which is why many companies are still earning large profits. This is especially true for companies like BYD and GAC that offer a wide range of PHEV models. In contrast, companies that concentrate only on electric vehicles are facing significant challenges. They are affected by price war, slowing demand, and other factors putting pressure on their business. Take the example of Great Wall Motors, which recently released its annual results showing a mixed picture. While the company saw a year-on-year growth of over 26%, its profit dropped by 15%. This decline is partly because the company is still struggling to make EVs more profitable. Additionally, some PHEV models like the Lenshan and Gaoshan do not perform as well as expected and are still trying to find their place in the market. Dongfeng is another company facing similar challenges worth noting. Dongfeng experienced a sales decline of about 5% last year. Additionally, the company reported a $4 billion loss for the first time in years. Similarly, BAIC Motor did not meet investors' expectations. Their revenue growth was only 3.9%, much lower than the 8.3% growth they achieved in 2022. Number 2, EV startups are going out of the market. All these companies we just talked about have one thing in common. They are large and state-owned. This means that no matter how much they struggle, the Chinese government will not allow them to fail. On the other hand, there are many small startups that were previously supported by generous incentives from the government. These small companies help the Chinese EV sector grow. But now it seems it's time to sort out which of these startups will survive. The government is likely to reduce support for many of these smaller companies, focusing on the ones that are more likely to succeed in the long run. The Chinese EV revolution is like a race where most participants won't make it to the end. Instead, many will go bankrupt, leaving the market to the biggest players. The rate of bankruptcies has been faster than expected because none of these companies have successfully expanded to foreign markets. As a result, their struggles are much worse now, especially with the big players starting an intense price war. Small EV startups don't have enough resources to survive these tough times. Most of them will soon disappear, leaving only about a half dozen companies in the Chinese EV market. Even now, the top 10 makers control 80% of the market, while many others struggle to get by. Currently, around 90 EV makers remain, down from 500 in 2017. Most experts think another wave of bankruptcies is coming soon, and it will be even harsher. Number 1, quality problems. As mentioned, Chinese EVs are having a hard time expanding into Western markets. and legal issues are not the only problem. Another common issue with Chinese EVs is their quality. There have been many reports raising concerns about their quality. For example, Japanese sources have mentioned scratches on vehicles during transportation. Meanwhile, European sources have reported finding mold in some cars. These quality concerns make it even harder for Chinese EVs to compete in Western markets. In Thailand, customers have reported that paint and plastic parts on many Chinese EVs are peeling. In Israel, there have been complaints about BYD electric cars getting warped under the weight of roof racks. These kinds of complaints are numerous and are probably the biggest obstacle to Chinese EV makers expanding to international markets. Until they fix these quality issues, Chinese EV companies will have to continue competing in the more limited domestic market. Alright guys, we've come to the end of this video, and if you enjoyed it, do well to click on the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to check out other videos on our playlist. We've got some amazing content for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.